I'm going to introduce Becky. Becky Pierson Davidson's a community-driven product strategist, former head of product at Boss Babe, a media education company that helped thousands of women entrepreneurs start and scale businesses. She's now doing her own thing as the founder of PD Strategy. She's helped 6, 7, and 8-figure founders build community-driven products via product leadership, workshop facilitation, and user experience design strategy. She supports teams and organizations as a fractional head of product, leading strategic workshops, and also publishes a wonderful weekly newsletter about the intersection of community and product, which you can find at her website. And I'll share a link to her website actually in the chat. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you. What an intro. I need you to attend everything I do and just go on right before me, all right? Hello, everyone. I hope you're ready for some chat action because I love that. All right. Today, we're going to talk about my favorite topic, the community of product and how to build community into your product strategy and really create a space of belonging with your customers and inherently make your products grow, which is what we're all here to do. So today's session is going to cover what community is all about, what the business of belonging is. So I've been studying community the past 6 months really deeply because I've been writing this newsletter for 6 months. And I've come to this thesis moment where I think I understand there's 2 different models to community businesses. And so we're going to break those down, talk about those. And hopefully today I want you to leave with some really clear ideas about how you can integrate community into your product strategy. And we'll talk a lot about community feedback loop, how to connect with your community and customers. And all right, let's get into it. Lots of examples, lots of pictures, and lots of questions in the chat. So get ready. All right, building belonging. So I think all of us can probably relate to this. We crave human connection and belonging. We've heard endlessly about this epidemic we've been in with COVID-19 and everything that's happened in the world where there's this dissonance. We're not as connected as we used to be, and we're not meeting up in person, and everybody's craving this. We see it in like the travel stories. Everybody's traveling, everybody wants to meet up and do things, and everyone's really excited about live events again. And so we're all craving this belonging. And I believe that products that can harness this have this power and this ability to achieve crazy growth. But more importantly, I believe, and this is starting out with my beliefs so you understand where I'm coming from in all of this, if you serve a community with your product, if you lead through service, then the world's going to be a better place because we're building products that serve communities of people. And so everything comes back to people and human connection. And if your product can harness that, then you're going to build a better product. So to define community, just to kick us off, community is a group of people with a shared interest or goal. They come together in a digital or physical space to learn, share, and evolve. A lot of times, community within products is supporting people along a transformation or helping them practice something in their lives that they want to get better at, they want to evolve with. And so think about that through today's session. What is the transformation? And everybody has many journeys. Everybody has many paths. And during what path is your product serving this group of people? And that's really what community in product is all about. Okay, so I want to kick it off by talking about some communities that we're a part of. I'd love for you to drop in the chat what's coming to mind, what communities are you in, or what products do you use where you participate in their communities? There's a pretty obvious one because we're all here today. So if anybody wants a quick win, that would be a good one. I know that my friends would say that they're like sick of me and my husband always talking about Peloton. That's definitely an example of a community that we participate in quite often. So Danielle says the Colorado product community, Dev Network, Product Collective, Product Board. So we're all here because of product makers, which is amazing through a product board. My breathwork facilitation course, product school, cool. Lots of product people, amazing. All right, so these are communities, and probably some of you are referencing some kind of forum element, like we're coming together either on a live event or in a chat. And that is definitely an example of a community product, but it goes a lot beyond that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So there's tons of industries where community is present. And this is not an exhaustive list, but I'm sure there might be one or two on here that might surprise you. So we're going to go through some examples of these just to get your frame of reference around like all the different ways that product can be part of organizations or community can be part of products. So the first one is SaaS platforms. So two examples here, but really different approaches to how they use community. So Notion has one of the largest communities, and it can be really difficult to duplicate what Notion has done. It's pretty incredible, but they've achieved and unlocked this growth through this community that they've created. They allow people to really become evangelists of their product and get certified in using it and then teach others how to use it. They have meetups all over the world. One of my friends actually leads their Austin chapter. And so they have this very vibrant online community. And then we have Product Board, but this community is called Product Makers. And I was talking to Scott before this, and he was like, our community is really about a community of practice. And that's different. There's a couple schools of thought here. One is like an evangelist community of this SaaS product where they're teaching and building businesses on being able to create templates and serve their customers through using this tool. That's Notion. With Product Board, Product Makers is really about the people that, yes, might be using Product Board, but they're coming together to talk about their path to being product leaders in their careers. And it's really about coming together to practice. So a couple different ways to think about SaaS communities. The gaming industry. My nephew is always playing Fortnite and talking on a headset. I'm sure some of you here probably do that. I won't go too deep on this one because I can't talk about it very well, but the gaming industry has tons of ways that community is integrated into the product and the way you can connect with other people that are playing those games. Sephora is an example of an e-commerce company. They actually, you can see this number right here. They have 600,000 members in their online community. This is a huge example of a online forum that's adjacent to this big e-commerce brand. And so they actually have groups within their community that are really specific, like just different types of makeup or skincare or beauty categories that they can meet up and talk about with, share products and all kinds of things. And of course, through all of this, they're like bringing people to Sephora's website. It's a very smart marketing strategy, but it also creates this belonging to Sephora, the brand, and to be able to connect with other people that care about beauty. This is screenshots of some early concepts for a company called Routinify. This was one of my clients years ago. I wanted to put this in here because the healthcare industry has so much opportunity for community and connection and really serving people along oftentimes a difficult journey. And so in this case, this allowed family members of an aging adult to be able to connect with one another and support that senior, no matter if they really knew each other outside of that, but they could come together to be able to be part of that person's care circle. Of course, social platforms come to mind. We've got screenshots of LinkedIn and Instagram here. These are inherently social products. These do create community, but if we think about platforms like Twitch, they've really allowed sub-communities, which allows any person on that platform to really develop their own community. And Facebook started this with Facebook groups. And now if we think about those as like really broad categories, we're starting to see a lot more niched down communities where you can join groups of smaller people. And there's platforms that are starting to allow that. So we're seeing a lot more platforms popping up that are actually support this idea of building a community product. So MemberUp is a very new example of that. We also have platforms like Circle and a lot of course platforms that are starting to add community features. But really what this does is really changes the game, right? Because before we have Facebook groups, and now we have this ability to create our bespoke community forum type experience where anybody can build a community online and have the platform built there for them. So this is a whole nother industry too of tech where we're seeing a big boom in community and creator products. Okay, but it's not all fun and games. And something that's really important to keep in mind, because we see a lot, especially we have to be careful in the marketing space to not be like, oh, let's just spin up a community, because that is actually really risky. there's a social contract that you're creating with your customers when you develop any kind of community product. And we saw this as an epic fail with Google Plus. Google Plus, this story is from Mark Schaefer's book, Belonging to the Brand. Google Plus wanted to create a platform that competed with Facebook. And Facebook had millions of people on the platform, but Google quickly had millions of people on their platform. It was going well, right? It was growing. There were a lot of people there. After a while, they started to look at the data, and a person spent 3 minutes a month on Google Plus compared to 8 hours a month on Facebook. So in 2019, Google decided to kill the project. They ended it. But at the time, there were still thousands of people on this platform that were very active. Their trust was broken with Google because of this. A lot of them had actually built businesses using Google+. And so that became a really huge pain point for them and broke a social contract with their customers. So I want to be clear that while community is a really incredible strategy, it's also a lot of work, and it's something that takes a lot of thought. You don't necessarily just want to spin up a forum and call community done. It's an ongoing process that needs a lot of maintenance. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like, and always come back to this idea of it's hard to move people away from somewhere that they have belonging, which is great if you can build that because it adds stickiness to your product. But it was hard for Google to pull people away from Facebook because they already had belonging with their friends in their online space there. And because there was so much similarity, there wasn't a compelling reason to bring them over. Okay, so now to my concept about how these two kind of ideas can be broken apart. So I see this as twofold. You have adjacent communities where you have a separate forum, which includes in-person meetups or events, these kind of things. This is adjacent from the core product or core offering. And then you have integrated, where the social features are actually part of the product. Now, in some cases, you have both, and we'll talk about a couple that have both. And there's also this like third category where community is the product. We're not going to talk about that one too much today. But what I think I'm seeing is that a lot of times adjacent communities, which have this forum, like we saw Sephora, for example, that's an adjacent one. Yes, it's on their main website, it's part of their product, but it's not their core offering. Their core offering is their beauty products. And so this one is often marketing led. Now, integrated is typically product-led, where you're thinking about how do these community and social features actually live within the product and they're part of the product experience. And that doesn't mean that a forum can't be a part of that, but it does mean that it has to be core to the functionality in the product and the offer than in an adjacent example. So looking at a few examples, can anybody guess the brand for this one? It's Vans. It's not a WeWork. That would be cool if WeWork had a skate park. This is actually Vans. I think you can see the logo over here, Vans off the wall. So I saw the CMO of Vans speak last year, and she talked about the importance of both having experiential marketing and digital marketing. And she was talking about it in the context of marketing, but I actually think it's a really great example of community. So they have created these skate parks all over the place where people come together to skate and meet up. And that is an adjacent but experiential part of their brand and a really smart way to build community around their entire brand and really create buzz. And so they have these skate parks all over the place. And I think this is a really great example of an adjacent community experience. Another one that's a little bit more that is more digital is the Lego Ideas community. So they actually allow people to share their creations and they can upvote to be included as new product ideas. So you can see here we're on the product ideas tab, and these users have created these different things and they're being upvoted, and Lego actually can select them to mass produce this concept of their product. They have challenges on here. There's all kinds of things where they're really engaging their most active users, the people that love Legos the most. Okay, so I talked to my friend last week who her husband has a Porsche, and she told me you're supposed to say Porsche, and I just can't do it. So if I'm saying Porsche wrong, sorry, but cars come to mind too. So a lot of car brands have cult following vibes. So they meet up together and talk about their cars. They look at their cars, right? I don't know if anybody here has a Jeep, but that's definitely a vibe with a Jeep. There's like a wave you do if you pass another Jeep. Harley Davidson is a really good example. And Porsche actually has these clubs of America where they meet all over the place and go to these really special events. And having a Porsche like feels like being part of a really strong community. And yeah, Mini Coopers have one. I actually told her after talking to her about Porsche, I was like, I need to do a whole case study on all the different car brands. So coming to you soon in a newsletter near you. But this is a great example, again, of an adjacent community because the core product is the car. The core product is the Porsche, but their community is really what helps them with this growth flywheel of their brand and help them feel belonging. Now, if you are ready to buy a new car, you're more likely to buy a Porsche again because you want to stay within that community. It's harder to leave that. I have a Subaru, and Subarus, there's also a thing about Subarus, and I would feel weird like not getting a Subaru again because of that. There's like this belonging that creates. Peloton is another great example, but this one goes so much further. This is an example of integrated. The first three we just looked at were adjacent communities. This is an integrated experience where their digital app, you have a leaderboard where if you're taking a class and other people are taking a class, you can high five them, you can follow them later. In this feed view, I'm seeing my husband's workout in my profile. I'm able to collect things. And yes, there's like gamification elements to that. And there's definitely gamification and community are super intertwined in a lot of ways. But this creates this sense of I'm building a community and a following, not really building a huge following, but I'm connecting with my people within this app. And it makes it so that I would rather do a Peloton workout so that I can be there and participate in these things than just do a workout on my own or go to the gym because I want to be a part of this. The other thing that Peloton does that they still have this adjacent piece too, because people come together in person and they have their live classes in person and they do events and all kinds of things. So they really take it seriously on the marketing side as well. But within the product, they have these integrated community features. This is ConvertKit. So ConvertKit is an email marketing platform for creators, and they just released, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, in their product, the new Creator Network. So the Creator Network allows creators that are creating email newsletters or other email products on their platform to connect with one another. Let's say you subscribe to my newsletter. After subscribing, you would be prompted to potentially subscribe to a couple others if you wanted to. And this allows creators to connect with other creators and recommend their work so that everybody can help each other grow. And it's just this really powerful community they're creating of a very niche group. They're serving creators. And if you want to be a newsletter creator, then this is the best email platform to be on, or one of the best, because they have these social community features that they're starting to build within their product. And so this is a really great example of an integrated community experience. Another one, some of you, if you're into hiking, might recognize this. This is All Trails. They've been creating more of a community experience within their app. It's interesting because they've really repositioned reviews, where it's like, if you go on a hike now, you're reviewing it, you're rating the experience, but you're also sharing some images and details about the hikes that you've gone on, and you can share photos. Actually, I was looking at this app to find something near where I live. And honestly, I used to come to this app to look through and read reviews, but it feels different to see something in a local following and be like, oh, this is like somebody local and what they said. I'm more interested. I trust it more. I want to go on that hike, even though I don't know that person. So it's not always about who you know. Creating a local community at a digital scale can be really powerful. Okay, so the power of community and product growth. There's a few things that make this really beneficial as a strategy. Most importantly, you're just building a deeper relationship with your customer. Most of you probably do some type of user research. You're doing interviews, you might do surveys, but if you have a community that you're consistently a part of and people are there and you're engaging with them and you're reading what they're saying and you're looking at how they're interacting with each other, you're just going to understand them better. And the better you understand them, the better you understand their problems, the more you include them on creating decisions and solutions, then you're going to make smarter product decisions. So deeper relationships builds a deeper trust with your customers and also helps you really understand them better. I've talked about this a little bit, but it creates a much more sticky product because they feel like they have belonging, they have connection. It's much harder to leave. I describe my own experience with Peloton. I feel like I can't leave that because if I do, well, what do I do with what about all my history of all the workouts I've done? I feel good seeing that and seeing what my family is doing as well that I connect with on there. It also creates really loyal customers. They feel like they're a part of it, especially when you pull them in to co-create different things with you. Think about Lego, right? Lego had that example where they allowed their customers to come up with different concepts for their products. They are literally creating the product with the product creators at that brand. That makes them super loyal, right? They're never going to go anywhere else. And lastly, it just spins this word of mouth marketing. We talk about the things that we're a part of and what we're doing, what we feel belonging with. And that means that we're going to talk about your product with our families and invite our friends. And this talk is not about product-led growth, but it's really important that you make it easy for them to invite their friends because this is such a huge, powerful way to build a really strong core loyal customer following that you want to give them the opportunity to spread that message. And so I really see community and product led going hand in hand here. And it's up to the people defining the features to make sure that feature is there to happen. Okay. Lastly, we're going to talk about community feedback loop. All right. So another chat question for you. Every customer touch point is an opportunity. Where are you collecting feedback and finding insights in your work today? Customer support data from reviews, user interviews, surveys, Discord server, Slack. Awesome. User interviews on our community, comments on the blog. I love comments to the blog. That's a good one, Anna. Customer interviews, social channels like Reddit. Okay, perfect. So the customer service inbox is a gold mine. I think a lot of times, at least in my experience with customer service, we're moving so quickly through the inbox that sometimes it's really hard to recognize when you're in it what the themes are. And so it's important to pull those out and affinity map them and look at what the themes are. And especially whenever there's any kind of like qualitative conversation. And you can automate this stuff. I really love the tool Dovetail for user research. We played around with it on my team at Boss Babe, and we actually set up an automation for certain tags to pull into Dovetail. And for community forum, there's things like, let's say you do have like a Facebook group or something like that, actually taking screenshots and affinity mapping the themes of those can be really beneficial to start to see what some themes are. And if you don't have a community forum, go find forums that are your topic or your niche. Go to Reddit. Somebody said that, which is awesome. And then online call chats can be really beneficial sometimes to see what kind of questions people are asking, looking at event discussions. If you go to a live event, seeing what themes are, what topics were from that. And then of course, our in-product feedback tools can be crucial as well. But what I'm trying to get at is the conversations people are having can be really helpful to pull in to help you suss out some insights around what the challenges are and maybe some directions, whether that's programming for your community or for product features. So here's an example of something someone on my team at Boss Babe made. So we were doing a 3-part series with a guest, and it was a community call training series. And on the first call, we didn't have them all planned, but we had the first one planned. And so after that call, we really dug deep. Every single sticky note here was a chat in the call chat. So we pulled all of those out and actually themed them into groups and looked at what are some of the key insights and takeaways and used this to design the rest of the program so that we knew it would really resonate. And so taking call chats, taking community forum posts, and thinking about what are the themes and conversations that are really catching on here can help you decide what things to build next and really inform your product roadmap. Some things to be thinking about. And I like to think about this every week. So what is the emotional sentiment in the community? What is everybody feeling? Are we getting different vibes than usual? Any kind of emotion that's happening, we want to capture that somewhere. What conversations are catching on? I'm working with a client right now. I was looking at the community forum from the past few weeks, and there was one post that just was lit up. There was so much there. I was like, okay, let's try to dissect this and figure out what happened. Like, why did this catch on? And what's interesting about this, and how can we leverage that moving forward to get people to share things that are more interesting to the community that's there, because this is what really caught their interest. Who are we celebrating? This is really your opportunity to surprise and delight. If you notice somebody share something in a community forum or space, or maybe a comment on your blog, and you know how to get in contact with them, reach out, give them a gift, send them something, send them a card, flowers. It depends what's happening, but try to do something to surprise and delight. Do pop-up events that are really exciting and unexpected. People get really excited when they're surprised and something is really special and unique. And I think we have that opportunity. I think marketers think a lot about that, but I think product has that opportunity as well. Chewy comes to mind. If you lose a pet and you reach out to their customer service team and you say, hey, I got my bag of food on auto ship and I don't need it. If they find that out, if they find out that happened with your pet, they send you flowers and a card, which is really a beautiful surprise and delight moment. They are really connecting with their customers and fostering community. And I would say that really ties into how are we going the extra mile? So just always thinking about the people on the other end of the product. How can we serve them? Because at the end of the day, building product is really about serving your customers. Okay, last bit is all around your next steps. So first of all, think about how are your customers already connected in life outside your brand? And I'll let you reflect on that for a second and think if you have any ideas. So I've been working with a client in the healthcare space, and they were doing research on people using their app, and there's a gaming element in this app. They actually found out during their research that they're meeting up in person to use the app together, which is awesome and interesting. And it's okay. How can we harness that to really foster that community within the product? Because we know that they're meeting up in person to hang out on their phones using this app together. How can we foster that more in the brand? So that was a really fascinating example. I'm working with another client. I've been reading through their community posts, and everybody references church. It's very clear that their customers are already connected in life outside their brand through church. And we can decide if we want to do anything with that, but it's an interesting insight. So try to think about this. Industry forums, conferences, awesome. Yeah, conferences are great examples. Okay, so some action items. Take a look at the research that you've done and think about it through this new community lens. We had at Boss Babe this insight around people really need accountability, or they're asking for accountability. But what does that actually mean, and what are they looking for? And can we solve that through any kind of product feature or programming? And there's 100 solutions, and we have to find the best one. But is there a way to support this through creating some kind of belonging and community experience? Think about where your customers are already coming together and what community strategy might be right for you. It might be to do a pop-up event. It might be to do an online forum. It might be to add one small community feature in your product roadmap and see how it performs, and then start small and experiment from there. But these kind of sessions, like online meetups, can be a really great way to start too, because it doesn't take a ton of energy and organization, as long as you have some kind of promotion and marketing flywheel. But it can be a good way to get people, your customers, online together and get them talking and see what they're connecting over. And last thing is that I want to make sure that everybody understands community is really a team sport. And it takes a village. It's not just product. It's not just marketing. And There are incredible community managers, which I highly recommend adding to your team. It's like a very important person and role to have on your team if you're going to go down this community route. Customer service, they are the front lines and so important in really pulling them in and allowing them to come into the conversations with the team to talk about what are the opportunities we have to serve our community? What kind of sentiment is there in the inbox this week? Pull them into those conversations because they're the front lines and they're there every single day. Sales as well, really pull in every aspect of your team, whether you're a startup or a really large organization, you have to have that cross-functional people coming together to have these conversations. Okay, a few resources for you or things to follow, learn about. I really love this book. It's by Mark Schaefer, Belonging to the Brand. You want to be careful that it's not just a marketing strategy. Community is a lot more than that. It's about service. However, I think that the stories in here and some of the lessons are really incredible. And if you enjoyed this, you would probably like his book. I saw Rosie's here. Didn't know Rosie was going to be here, but follow Rosie. She is a community builder. She was a community manager of Indie Hackers and is just an incredible leader in the community space. And she has a forum of community managers, and she manages a list of community managers on her website. And if you're looking for community folks, she is the best resource to dig into her lists. And then I send a weekly newsletter called the BPD Beat, where if you liked this talk at all, I go a lot deeper on little pieces of this and really think about how we can better serve our customers and talk about the intersection of community and products. You can subscribe at that link. And I think that's it. I'll leave it there so you guys can see those things, but that's it, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really great. And thanks, Rosie, for sharing the link in the chat too. Definitely people should check out Rosie Land. A fantastic spot. I appreciate you showing up today too and being part of this. So we're going to open up things for Q&A. Didn't have any questions here right away from anybody, but would love to hear what people have to ask Becky on this topic. But I'm going to start off with one of my own. You've had a chance to experience our community a little bit. What do you see happening? What would you like to see more of inside there as a product person and as a community person?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
Yeah, sorry. And there's no wrong answers here, by the way.
I saw you did a virtual conference recently, right?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
I think that's awesome. It's a great opportunity because you have these like monthly or weekly meetups, but also creating more of a larger scale thing. Have you done in-person events?
Yeah, we've done in-person ones. Actually, the event we did this spring virtually, we actually did the year prior in person. It's interesting because we were actually bouncing between the in-person and virtual. We're still not really quite sure where the right traction is. And it's funny because there's like the intention is everyone wants to get together, but the actuality is, particularly in SaaS, a lot of teams are dealing with cutbacks or unable to travel. Those kind of like extra costs have disappeared from the ecosystem a little bit. And so how do we best get people together essentially when they don't have that ability to connect, right?
What if it wasn't your typical conference, but you really reimagine the experience of it? And is there a way to intersect your conference with maybe something else that's different that brings two different groups together that could benefit from learning from each other, and maybe keep expanding on that meetup in person idea, because there might be something there. I'm sure it took a while before Vans decided to open a bunch of skate parks in the music Brooklyn space. I don't know, maybe push on that a bit. And I'm a fan of Slack for a forum. So I haven't dug into all the channels yet, but I need to. And so I'll get back to you on that part.
Yeah, that's good. That's totally good. I just put you on the spot a little bit. A question here from Becca. We have a community on Discord, but it's dead. How do we solve the problem of people not being engaged? Our community consists of data scientists and AI engineers.
Yeah, re-engagement. First, I'd say follow Rosie. She shares a ton about engaging community and what engagement even means. And there's so much goodness from Rosie. But I will say it's hard to reignite a community like that. And you have to just experiment, try a lot of things. I would try a lot of personal outreach. I'm sure there's like a small group of people that maybe were active or are still active, and reaching out to them to try to start that flywheel, because you need some people to really be engaged to start pulling others in to start that conversation. And if they went quiet, find out why. You have to understand what the problem was and what you weren't serving, because maybe also this is manifesting as the wrong solution. Like maybe a forum on Discord isn't the right way to build community there. Like maybe there's a different way to do it. I would approach it from understand what the problem is and why it's not working, and then go from there.
Yeah, it's funny. I had an interesting example of a community recently. I don't want to tell the name of the community, but it was a product related community that's struggling with the same kind of problem. And they asked me to come and take a look at their community. And one of the things about it that stood out immediately for me was all of them talking out and no place for people to actually come in and talk. And it was like your channel structure and even just the stuff that you have there isn't actually giving anybody a space to talk. So why would they show up and do anything? It's just, I'm not going to come to let's just listen, basically.
Totally. Don't treat your community like a broadcast space. It's not like throwing things out into the abyss. You have to create spaces for people to feel really safe too. Psychological safety is super important, that they feel safe sharing. Make sure your roles aren't too overly strict. If you're taking down posts all the time, people are going to stop posting. I've experienced that issue with a product before. And
how are physical product communities maybe different than software or SaaS communities? So if you maybe have a hardware-based product or something like that, are they maybe a little bit different, perhaps?
I think Vans and Sephora are both physical products. I think because they're physical products, you have to go adjacent model. It's like events, pop-ups, sponsoring different types of meetups. I think that is really the route to go. There could be online forum that could work. And then also, is there an opportunity to build a digital product from what you learn from the customers that are buying the physical products? I think in any way you can have both hybrid, like physical and digital, that's better. And so I would also look for opportunities to solve their problems in different ways. I think Vans really have done that well.
Yeah. Question again from Becca. Do you have a recommendation on building the community features in-app, or is it better to work on the engagement problem in another tool or system and then spend time building it later? I guess maybe the order of operations on maybe adjacent versus integrated.
Yeah, I think adjacent is a good experimentation strategy for sure. But you could also start small, and it depends on the product. If, like with Peloton, they have their product, they have their community features built into the product. You can't have a leaderboard that's outside of that product that people are going to care about and go to and log into. It's harder to get people to log into two places. So I would say integrate them as much as possible. Whenever integration is possible, it's better. However, when many of us are making build versus buy decisions, you don't need to build a community forum from scratch just to build a community forum. If there's a touch point within your product that makes sense to have a community experience, build that custom, but you don't have to build an entire forum platform, because there are things out there that exist that you can use.
Yeah. Maybe, and I'm just kind of curious maybe on your thoughts on this too, is I think a lot of people jump into thinking like community checkbox. We need one, we're going to go build one. Like it's that kind of mentality of building for versus maybe with. Like how do you address and bridge that gap? How do you go out essentially and make sure that there's actually even a need for community, a space that's even required, or a way in which to do this?
Yeah, I mean, you have to start with customer research. Like with Boss Babe, our members are talking about needing more accountability. Okay, they like that. To me, I think there's a lot of opportunity for community type product features to solve that problem. Yeah. So make sure you understand the root of the problem you're solving, and that community is a good answer. I definitely have experienced a lot of clients coming to me and being like, hey, I'm a thought leader. I do this. I want to spin up a community. And it's, are you sure? It's a lot of work. It's a huge undertaking. And I think it was Becca said earlier, it's hard because it can go dead. It takes a lot of work and pivoting. You can't do the same thing over and expect people to not get bored. People get bored. Yep. And then the last thing I'd say is beta test things, because you don't want to Google Plus it. And maybe Google Plus had a beta in the early days, and I'm sure they did. You don't want to have a ton of people come into this thing and sell it with like a big launch and then realize like it wasn't right. So I think getting a really small group in there, I'm doing this with a client right now. We have a really small group that we're testing different things with, and then we're going to start to bring more people in. You have to get it right. It's like any product where the first way you structure the spaces and that kind of thing in a forum isn't going to be the end result forever.
Exactly. Another question here from Amanda. What are the biggest risks in community features and how do you mitigate them?
I think the biggest risk is the social contract I talked about, like not being really mindful of what kind of social contract you're creating when you're offering a way for your community or your customers to connect with you and connect with each other, because you can't pull that rug out from under them without including them in the decision. That will break brand trust and hurt your brand and your product overall. So I think that is by far the biggest risk. The other thing is psychological safety, making sure that people feel like they have a safe space to be who they are, and moderation, and taking that very seriously, having terms and guidelines. Anytime people can connect with one another within your product, you need to be thinking about that stuff, because unfortunately there are jerks.
Building on that question from Amanda a little bit here, is any examples of a good social contract in a context of a product? We have a community code of conduct as part of ours, and you can find that on our community page. And we talk about that often as part of our onboarding, again, to create that safety, but we also have a DE&I charter and other kinds of things that are really talking about how we want to show up and how we represent and how we respect one another and our participation in the community. Any good examples that you want to share on that side?
Yeah, Creative Mornings comes to mind. Does anybody know Creative Mornings? I didn't talk about them, which is surprising because I love them. But they're global. They have like over, I think, 250 chapters worldwide. And it's a monthly event where creatives come together. But during every single event in every chapter, there's 200 something events every month. They start the session by reading their manifesto, which is basically their rules, where it's like, everyone is creative, everyone belongs here. And then there's like a whole spiel. But I think, yes, it's important to have those community guidelines and those terms, but you also have to share them often and keep bringing them up, because otherwise they're not reading it all the time. As a community manager, you might be like, oh yes, these are our guidelines, but they don't remember, and also upholding them. So I'm part of Sky J. Klaus's community, where he helps creators grow their creator businesses and become professional creators. And he's got 200 people in there, and he has a rule around not doing too much self-promotion, being careful about that, so that it's a place where we all want to log into. Yep. And he made a post not too long ago where he was like, hey, it feels like this boundary is being pushed. The way I'm solving this is I'm going to do a monthly post where everybody can talk about what offer they're working on. You can post any promotional stuff you want and a comment on this post. And I thought that was a really good solution, because he was like, hey, I'm noticing this problem that this community guideline is not being followed. And also, here's what I'm going to do about it, because I know that it's also important for you to be able to self-promote. And that's part of the reason you joined this community.
Yep, that's a good lens. Question here from Sarah. What if you are serving enterprises but have problems around convincing stakeholders to create a community for senior level executives? So you're probably serving an advanced audience. You want to attract maybe that senior leadership to it, and you're having challenges connecting and convincing stakeholders. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's about the marketing and framing of it. Call it like a mastermind instead of a community. The more executive you go and the more busy the people are, the less likely they are to log into a forum and participate. And so you have to know your customer. What time do they have available? Are they on the go? Are they at a desk? Understand their environmental situation and what is going to work best for them. And also the why behind it. If it's not compelling for them, you're not going to be able to pull them in or sell it or whatever. So I think with groups like that, like the word mastermind can be helpful, as long as there's a really clear objective.
You make a great point there too, that getting back to the core of the problem that they're trying to solve, and do they have the interest in solving it? Do they want to participate? In which way can they participate, get involved? I'm not jumping just into let's build a community.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would you recommend connecting with to help figure out where or how to start community in our ecosystem? And the best ways to get a flywheel going. This is a question here from Cole.
You can reach out to me.
Perfect. Good plug.
Here's my deets. My email's bpd@beckypearson.com. So feel free to email me. But yeah, I'd love to help. I also can point you in the right direction if I'm not the right person to help. But
That's
I hope
great.
my content would help you. So feel free to check out my website.
Yeah, lots of great stuff there. Definitely encourage you to check it out. Thanks so much, Becky. This is really interesting, super great content. I'm just going to wrap things up for the session today. We'd love to get everybody's feedback. Love to hear any contribution that you can make to what you thought about today's event. And we do share this with our speakers as well. If you want to continue the conversation in our Slack community, feel free to. Becky's part of that and lots of other people there too. They can certainly chime in and answer and share best practices and ideas. And if you do want to get involved as a speaker, share some of the knowledge or experiences that you've got on these topics, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to get in touch and hear from you and give you some space. Lots of things going on in our community, whether they be events, meetups, get-togethers, different programs and things like that. So come and take advantage of that. Speaking of events, we've got a couple events coming up over the month of July. Next one is Louis Ali from Rabbit, which is an e-commerce company, talking a little bit about prioritization. We've got a later event for some of our people in Australia and New Zealand coming in as well on July 13th with Alejandro and Simon on the topic of strategy, and a bunch of others as well coming up. So check out our full calendar online. And with that, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Becky. Tons of fun to have you here. I appreciate the energy and all the excitement. And I'm really glad we could get you involved.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
No problem. Take care.